Okay. We ready?
4, 3, 2, 1. Let's go! I love country because it's real.
It's just my lifestyle.
It's who I am.
That's what country is.
It's about family. It's about America.
It's Britt on the road.
From the Wrangler National Finals Rodeo.
Let me show you how a country girl gets it done, y'all.
You're on with Britt Bailey.
And we are live, 93.9 The Country Moose. Britt on the road here. I am definitely on the road, and I have found some amazing people to come and talk with me a little bit. Mandy and Chris from Black Barrel Media. How are you guys today?
Hey, Britt, we're great. Thanks for having us.
Great. Yeah, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Yeah, definitely. Now, I want to get right into this because you guys have a phenomenal podcast. You guys have a couple podcasts, actually, that you guys do with Black Barrel Podcasts. And tell me a little bit about kind of how this all started and kind of how it became to be.
Yeah, I guess I can jump in with the beginning of it. The whole operation, we almost did it a little bit backwards. I started the Legends of the Old West podcast as a kind of side project while I was working a full-time newspaper job in Texas. And it suddenly became fairly popular. And I ended up calling Mandy and saying, hey, I think we can make a business out of this. And we had talked about teaming up to do something for quite a while, but we just hadn't decided what that something should be. And when I thought maybe there could really be a future in this podcasting business, she was at the right time in her career. And I thought, this could be a great little move for me. So we decided to join forces and create Black Barrel Media after we had already created the product that would be the showcase of Black Barrel Media. So instead of starting the company that's going to produce a product, we produced the product first and then made the company afterwards. So it's a bit of a backwards process, but it's worked so far. So we can't complain.
So it literally started as a hobby and a passion project for our love of the Old West is now a full-blown media company. So it's been pretty exciting.
I could imagine. My goodness. Well, and you guys have not only been doing your own thing, but you've also been featured on a lot of different podcasting sites with these podcasts. Talk a little bit about that.
Yes, you can find our show on basically any app that you can find. That wherever you listen to your podcast, you'll find our podcast. So Apple Podcasts is where I think most people go. If you have an iPhone, there's an actual purple app on your phone that is, baked into the apps. So that's an easy place to go and just search for Legends of the Old West or Infamous America, and our shows will pop right up. Otherwise, there's iHeartRadio, there's Spotify, there's Castbox. Wherever you get your podcasts, we're there.
That's awesome.
Very true. Yeah. And we actually got a little bit of to go a little further with the Apple podcast thing. When we started the Legends of the Old West, of course, about the Old West. It's a pretty self-explanatory title. And then we started another podcast called Infamous America, which is also fairly self-explanatory. It tells stories of the most infamous people and events in American history. And when we told the story of the 1919 World Series gambling scandal, the Black Sox scandal, last year in 2019, Apple Podcasts featured that on their app, and the audience went through the roof for it. So we Castbox and some of the others have also been starting to take notice. So we're starting to make some headway with some of those major players in the podcast world, and they're starting to want to work with us on a few things.
That's fantastic. So now when Legends of the Old West kind of came about, what are those type of, all of the different stories that you guys have? I know you guys are like number one out there for the Old West type podcasts on there. So like kind of what are some of the other stories that you guys feature?
Yeah, it is. As far as we can tell right now, there are lots of podcasts out there in the world. There's well over 1 million, out there. Thousands are getting added every day. But there's really a very small handful that focus on the American West, the Old West, and Legends of the Old West is one of the few that produces regular episodes and has been doing so since the very beginning. And so it has now positioned itself as one of the leaders in the American West space. And so the premise of it, the format of it is that I take one story and I tell it in a long form in an episodic series, just like you would see on a TV show. So if you wanted to know the true story of the gunfight at the OK Corral, I will tell you that whole story from start to finish in a series of episodes, along with the biographical information of Wyatt Earp and Doc Holliday and all the major players. So it really almost becomes a TV series for your ears, where you're following these characters as they progress through life and end up in the biggest, wildest events that we've all heard of. So we take that formula and apply it to the career of Jesse James and Billy the Kid and the Texas Rangers and Red Cloud of the famous Lakota war chief. And so we get into Native American battles, and we'll be featuring more of those in the future. So it goes all over the place: lawmen, outlaws, Native American stories, and about everything in between.
And the really cool thing about these series is that Chris's background is in film. And so he kind of mentioned this, but all of these series are told in a cinematic fashion. So he mentioned a TV show for your ears, and most people actually call it a movie for your ears. You really feel like you're immersed in this movie. And, one of the biggest complaints that we've ever gotten about our podcast is that people have to wait week to week to keep hearing the story. Yeah. So we finally started this membership program that allows people to binge the series a week before it comes out. And so, we really are creating kind of that movie atmosphere and how we tell these stories.
Yeah. So you're actually getting to piggyback off my own slightly different statement there. We're kind of giving you both TV formats at once. We're giving you the network TV show where you have to wait week to week on the free public feed to see what's going to happen next with your characters. But then if you also want the next Netflix version where you get the whole series at once and you can binge it, we also have that concept available as well.
That's fantastic. And so now where can they go to be able to get that membership?
The easiest place is on our website.
Yep.
Go ahead, Mandy.
Yeah, no, I was going to say the exact same thing. The first thing that you see on our home screen is the join, and you can join within 2 clicks. So it's super, super easy. And you can see, that you can binge the series, you can get early access, you can get ad-free episodes, all those things that, people that are really into the stories want. So we wanted to be able to give that, to our listeners at a really affordable price. So so first thing that you see on the website, blackbarrelmedia.com.
Awesome. That's fantastic. And it's so neat that there's so many people. I know there's a lot of people that aren't really into podcasting. Like they haven't tried it before. Like I know some of my older friends, they're like, podcasts. Now, once you get them into it, and something like this, where a lot of people are very intrigued by this. And I know even where I'm from in Iowa, granted, we're down in Texas right now for the National Finals Rodeo, but when I'm there in Iowa, it's really cool because we had a lot of those outlaws come through, and a lot of people, like grandparents, parents, had stories about those outlaws coming through this area. So if people are really into that, this is really neat to be able to hear those stories in its entirety.
Yeah, well, one of the great ones with the tie, and I won't give away the whole story, but there is a Jesse James connection. As I mentioned Jesse James earlier, there's a critical piece of the Jesse James story that happens in Iowa. It's short in timeline, but it's pretty critical to his overall story. So yeah, Jesse James certainly applies there. There are other characters who I learned in doing the research were born in Iowa. And some of them traveled through Iowa. So my very quick little examples, I don't want to go too deep in it for all your listeners and maybe bore them to death. But my favorite TV show of all time, speaking of the Old West, is Deadwood on HBO. Yes. And the character of Al Swearingen, who's the notorious bad guy, was born in Iowa. He's born in Oskaloosa, Iowa. And not a lot of people know that about him. So whether Oskaloosa wants to lay claim to such a violent and terrible person is up to them. But he was certainly very memorable in the TV show.
Wow, that's awesome. Well, now, and I'm not going to lie, you guys have a little bit of a connection to Iowa too.
I was just going to say a couple other people are from Iowa here. So so we were actually born and raised in Des Moines. So we both live in Phoenix now, but born and raised in Des Moines.
That's awesome. Well, and you know what? I think it's kind of like Kevin Bacon, the 7 signs.
Exactly.
I think it's the same way with everybody from Iowa. Somebody at least knows somebody that knows somebody from Iowa. So
exactly why we connected immediately, Britt, when I met you at the NFR a couple of years ago.
Especially if you live in warmer climates, you will absolutely find people from Iowa as they try to flee the Iowa winters.
Midwest is notorious. Don't give me, hence why I'm down here in Texas.
Yeah.
I'm
exactly.
Like, it's an excuse to get out of the cold country.
Yep.
We don't blame you.
Yes. Well, I appreciate you guys taking a minute here and talking with me. We're going to feature some of your stuff on our website at 939kia.com. And so I am just excited for people to go and find you guys' stuff and see all of the different, and hear all of the different stories that you guys tell. How has it been to kind of go through this and see all those feedbacks that have come back on this?
Oh my gosh. And I'll let Chris talk about this because he's actually the host of Legends and Infamous. But, just from, a Black Barrel Media perspective, just seeing all of the reviews that we get. If you love the shows, please give us a rating and review. We read all of them. We love them. We interact with all the fans on social media. We've really gotten to know a lot of the listeners and a lot of the fans. They've become almost friends and family to us at this point. And, we just, to see kind of the impact that we have on people and the fact that people just love being able to, get a drink and sit by the fire and be transported back to the American West, or, our other Infamous America show takes you back in history. It's just to a simpler time and people love it. And we've really kind of provided that outlet for people, which is so cool.
Yeah. It's been really interesting to see not only that aspect, but how much of an appetite there is around the world for stories of the American West. That was absolutely the most surprising thing when I launched the show, how quickly it found a worldwide audience. And we have watched that audience grow, and those people interact with us as well. They send us emails and Facebook messages and everything else from Australia, New Zealand, Finland, Germany, England, Ireland, everywhere.
Wow.
So it's really interesting to see that these stories still resonate with a worldwide audience. So it's been really fun to hear that feedback as well.
Oh yeah. And mentioning the feedback on there, prior COVID, you guys actually went and did almost like meet and greets, correct?
Oh yeah. I mean, we would go to museums and do presentations and meet up with a lot of fans. And, we went to Deadwood a number of times. Chris actually moderated the HBO premiere in Deadwood with 3 of the actors from the movie. And, it was just, we've had so much fun with this. And then COVID kind of cramped our traveling style.
Yeah.
So we're going to be excited to get back out there and, get back on the road again. That's for sure.
Yeah. Well, and speaking of, in 2021, what do you guys kind of have planned?
Oh, well, hopefully we can at some point resume at least a little bit of these traveling to some of these little hotspots around the American West. We were on a pretty good roll there of actually visiting lots of the places that we talked about in the podcast. Hopefully that's able to come back around at some point. But as far as scheduling goes, we're going to start the year with some really fun stuff. So if anyone who might listen to this before the beginning of 2021, the year is going to start with the story of Texas Ranger Frank Hamer on the Legends of the Old West podcast, who is, of course, famous for bringing down Bonnie and Clyde. And then we'll be telling the story of Bonnie and Clyde at roughly the same time on the Infamous America podcast. So you're going to be hearing Texas Ranger Frank Hamer's story and Bonnie and Clyde's story almost simultaneously. So they act as a little crossover event. And we're eventually going to work into other stories like U.S. Marshal Bass Reeves, the first Black deputy U.S. Marshal in American history, who had a movie made about him a couple years ago. And his story has been requested over and over and over again. So fans have been asking for that one for a long time. And there's a whole list. We do, I don't even know how many, I shouldn't even have started that sentence because I don't know how many seasons we even do in a year. 10 to 12 seasons probably in a year. So we've got a whole list of awesome stories coming down the pike on both sides, for Legends of the Old West and for Infamous America.
That's
the great thing about podcasts too, especially our podcasts that are historically based, is that nothing's time sensitive. So no matter when you find the show, go back to episode 1 and just binge all, I think, 100 episodes that we have out as of, I think after our next series, we'll have about 100 episodes out on the show on Legends.
Yeah. But by the time you hear this, you will have a huge back catalog to listen to. If you're just now discovering the show, either show, you got a lot to catch up on.
Yes.
So enjoy that.
Happy binging.
Yes.
Yes.
Road trips. Book a road trip if you can.
Yes.
Exactly. And you know what? You might as well go cross country. I mean, stay in your car, of course, follow all the COVID guidelines and rules and stuff, and hop in your car and go listen to the podcast. It's a good thing to do.
Yeah. We live down in Phoenix, and a lot of people who live in the West, they have the availability to hike when it's not snowing all over them. So in Phoenix here, it's perfect for hiking. That's what I do when I go on hikes around here. It's always podcasts. So if you're able to take a safe road trip, you've got plenty of content to listen to.
Perfect.
Or if you just want to get out of the house and go listen to something,
for a walk.
Just go for a walk, go for a drive, take us with you.
Yeah, perfect. Well, thank you guys again for joining me here with Britt on the road.
Well,
Thank you.
you so much. Have so much fun at the NFR, Britt. We're so excited for you. Wish I could be with you this year. So
Yeah, say hi to Texas for us.
Yes,
Absolutely.
we'll do next year, 2021, man.
we're there. We're there.
Perfect.
That's what we do. That's what we love.
Love it.
That was another On the Road exclusive with Britt.
That's perfect. We'll take it.
Social butterfly.
I can't believe this thing went viral. On 93.9 The Country Moose.